The first thing I felt was the cold. The kind of deep, unforgiving cold that seeps into your bones from a cheap bathroom tile floor. My head was throbbing, and for a second, I couldn't remember how I got here. Then I saw my phone, screen still glowing beside my cheek. It was open to my chat with Mason. My last message, sent God knows how long ago, was just 3 pathetic question marks. But it wasn't the lack of a reply that made my stomach clench. It was the tiny icon next to his name. You know the one? The little speaker with a slash through it. Muted. He hadn't blocked me, he hadn't deleted me, he had just turned down the volume on my existence. And honestly, that was the last thing I saw before the lights went out. I'm not a drama queen, I don't faint. But that silence, it was so loud it just knocked me out. Okay, let's be clear about something right from the start. I know how this sounds. I know I come across as the crazy, clingy girlfriend stereotype, the one you see in memes. And maybe I am. But I need you to understand, it wasn't always like this. With Mason, for the first time in my adult life, I actually felt quiet inside. He was the calm after the catastrophic storm of my ex, a guy who treated trust like a game he had to win by cheating. Mason was different. I remember one of our first dates, I started crying over something stupid, like my car making a weird noise, and the tears were really about everything else. He didn't try to fix it. He just sat with me in the silence, put his hand on my knee, and said, "It's okay to be a mess. I'm right here." He was gentle, he was patient, and he made me feel safe. But safety is a funny thing for people like me. It feels so good, so warm, that you immediately start looking for the fire escape, convinced the building is about to burn down. The quiet in my head didn't last. It slowly got replaced by a different kind of noise. A constant, low-level hum of anxiety that started as a whisper. What if this is too good to be true? Then it got louder. It started small, just checking his Instagram to see if he'd liked some model's picture. Benign stuff, but then it morphed. I was checking his following list for new female names. I was checking the likes on his photos to see if the same girl's name appeared too often. Soon, I was a full-blown detective in a case only I was investigating. I knew his work schedule better than he did. I knew that his lunch meeting on Tuesday was with a guy named Dave from accounting. But I only knew that after an hour of frantic, heart-pounding panic, because he'd posted a story of his sandwich with a geotag for a cafe near his office. And I had to cross-reference it with his company's online directory to see who worked on that floor. I'd analyze the tone of his texts like they were ancient scripture. Love you, with a period, a goddamn period, that's a full stop, that's finality. Yesterday it was love you. What changed in 24 hours? Who was she? And here's the sickest part, I knew it was insane. There was a rational part of my brain, a tiny Gemma screaming from a soundproof room, yelling, "You are going to ruin this. Stop it, he's a good guy." I could literally be scrolling through his Venmo transactions at 2 a.m., my heart pounding in my ears, while simultaneously thinking, "This is pathological behavior, Gemma. This is not normal. You need help." But I just couldn't stop. It was like a drug. The brief, fleeting moment of relief when I found nothing was immediately replaced by the gnawing, desperate need to check again, just in case I missed something. It was a full-time job, and the only payment was a constant, simmering misery and a bottomless pit of self-hatred. I'm not making excuses for myself, I swear. I know what I did was wrong. But to understand why everything shattered so completely, you have to know about the one rule he ever gave me. The one bright, red line he drew in the sand. It was early on, maybe a month into us dating. We were in that perfect, lazy phase, tangled up in his sheets on a Sunday morning, the sunlight cutting dusty stripes through the air. You just talk for hours about everything and nothing, Exes, childhood pets, dreams for the future. He started telling me about Olivia, his ex. He wasn't bitter, not in the way my ex was. He was just hollowed out. Sad. He described how her insecurity had started as a small crack and eventually became a chasm that swallowed them both. How she'd demand his phone passwords after a night out with friends. How she'd call his office receptionist, pretending to be a client, just to make sure he was really at his desk. How every innocent comment about a female celebrity or colleague would turn into a 3-day-long fight where he was on trial for crimes he hadn't even imagined. He rolled over to face me then, propping himself up on his elbow. The playful, easy light in his eyes was gone, replaced by something heavy. He looked so serious, almost haunted. "Gemma," he said, his voice quiet but incredibly firm, "it killed me. Not just the relationship, I mean, it killed something inside me. To be constantly suspected, to have your every word treated like a potential lie. It just grinds you down to nothing. It's like being suffocated, slowly. It makes you feel like you're already guilty, so what's the point of even trying to be good?" Then he took my hand. And this is the part that plays over and over and over in my head like a horror movie I can't turn off. He looked right into my eyes, and I could see the absolute sincerity there. "I can give you anything," he said. "My time, my affection, my last slice of pizza, I don't care. But I can't give you trust. That has to come from you. It's the one thing I need you to give me, freely, without me having to earn it every single day. That's my only red line. My only deal breaker." I remember nodding so earnestly, my heart swelling with this fierce, protective love for him. I thought, how easy, how simple. Trust him? Of course I could trust him. He was Mason. He was the safe one, the good one. I promised him, right there in the sunlit dust, that I would never be that person. I told him he never had to worry about that with me. And I meant it. God, I really, truly meant it with every fiber of my being. I was so sure I could be better. The final nail in the coffin wasn't some huge, dramatic betrayal. There was no other woman, no secret life. It was a Tuesday, and it was pathetic. Mason's team had been drowning in this massive project for months, a real career maker for him. It meant late nights, skipped dinners, and a level of stress that made his jaw constantly tight. I tried to be the supportive girlfriend. I really, truly did. I was dropping off food, sending encouraging texts, telling him how proud I was. But every act of support was a battle against the ugly little voice in my head, the one that whispered, "Is he really at the office? Is Project Deadline a code name for someone else?" Last week was the final push. He was basically living at his firm, running on fumes and caffeine. I barely saw him. On Tuesday night, around 10 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a picture from him. A grainy, happy, slightly blurry selfie of his whole team crowded around a table at some downtown bar, beers raised in the air. He was in the middle, grinning from ear to ear, looking exhausted but so incredibly, incandescently relieved. The text underneath read, "We did it, it's finally over. Celebrating with the team for a bit, then heading home. Love you." My eyes should have focused on his smile. Instead, they scanned the photo like a facial recognition program looking for a threat. And it found one. Standing right next to Mason, her arm casually slung over the back of his chair, was a woman I'd never seen before. Pretty, blonde, laughing, her head tilted towards his in a way that felt, to my poisoned mind, intimate. That was it. That was all it took for the floor to fall out from under me. The rational Gemma, the one who was still screaming from her soundproof room, knew exactly what to do. Say, "Congratulations, baby. I'm so incredibly proud of you. Have fun and be safe." It was so simple. But my fingers, they felt like they belonged to someone else entirely. They started moving, possessed by a frantic, paranoid energy I couldn't control. "Who's the girl next to you?" Sent, the blue check marks appeared instantly. My heart was hammering against my ribs so hard I felt it in my throat. I knew I should stop. I knew this was me, walking directly onto the landmine he had so clearly pointed out to me. But I couldn't. The compulsion was a physical force. The one with the blonde hair. "Is she on your team? You never mentioned a Jenna before." I had already zoomed in, screenshotted, and reverse image searched her face on the company's public-facing team page. The messages were firing off, one after another, a barrage of pure, uncut insecurity. My hands were shaking. I was pacing my living room, watching the 3 little dots appear and disappear as he typed. I felt this bizarre, out-of-body sensation, like I was watching myself methodically dismantle my own life, brick by brick. I was literally thinking, "Gemma, stop. You are destroying everything good you have. This is a test, and you are failing." But the poison was already in the system, and it had to come out. The final message I sent, the one that I think truly severed the last thread, was the worst. "Honestly, Mason, it looks a little too cozy for a work celebration, don't you think?" After I sent that last message, the 3 little dots of him typing just vanished. The chat went dead. And the silence that followed was 1,000 times worse than any angry reply he could have sent. I stared at my phone, my own reflection a pale, distorted mask on the black screen. 5 minutes passed, then 10. My adrenaline started to curdle into a thick, cold dread in the pit of my stomach. I sent a follow-up. Mason? Nothing. I tried to backtrack to clean up the mess. Sorry, I'm just tired and being stupid. I'm really proud of you. Still nothing. The messages were delivered, the blue checks mocking me, but there was no response. It was like shouting into a void. An hour went by. I called him. It rang and rang and rang, then went to voicemail. His voice, so warm and familiar on the recording, was like a ghost from a life I'd had just an hour before. I don't know what possessed me to open WhatsApp, maybe some desperate hope that he'd be online there. I clicked on his name, and that's when I saw it. It wasn't a block. It was something far more surgical, far more insulting. Next to his name, where it shows his status, was that little icon. The speaker with a line through it. He had muted me. He hadn't cut me off. He hadn't ended it. He had simply made me irrelevant. He was still out there, his phone was on, but my words, my panic, my existence had been demoted to a non-event. A notification that would no longer buzz. A sound that would no longer be heard. He was choosing not to listen. He had reached his limit, that one red line I had promised I would never cross, and he had calmly, quietly, stepped away from it. He wasn't fighting back, he was just done. The room started to feel like it was tilting. The floor seemed to rush up to meet me. My breath caught in my chest, a sharp, painful gasp. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. I had pushed the kindest, most patient man I'd ever known to a place where he didn't even have the energy to argue with me anymore. I had become noise to him, just noise. My knees buckled, and the last thing I remember was the harsh fluorescent light of the bathroom ceiling and the tiny, cruel icon burning on my phone screen. Waking up on the bathroom floor was just the beginning of the nightmare. When I finally managed to pull myself together, my head pounding and my body aching, a single, frantic thought consumed me. I had to get to his apartment. I had to see him. I was convinced that if I could just talk to him, face to face, I could fix it. I could explain. He'd see the tears in my eyes, he'd see how sorry I was, and we could rewind. We could go back to yesterday. I drove like a maniac, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. I rehearsed my apology the whole way there. I wouldn't make excuses. I would just beg. I used my key to let myself in, my heart hammering with a sick mix of hope and terror. "Mason," I called out, my voice trembling. The silence that answered was heavier, more final than the silence on the phone. His apartment was eerily neat. But as I walked into the bedroom, my blood ran cold. The top 2 drawers of his dresser were open and empty. I rushed to the closet. A chunk of his clothes was gone. Not all of them, just the essentials. His favorite hoodie, his work shirts, his running shoes. I stumbled into the bathroom. His toothbrush was gone. His razor, his deodorant, the stupidly expensive face wash I always made fun of him for buying, all vanished. He hadn't just muted me, he had erased himself. There was no note. No dramatic, angry text. He had just packed a bag while I was having my meltdown and disappeared from my life as quietly and efficiently as a ghost. It was a masterclass in avoidance. The ultimate act of a man who so hated conflict that he would rather amputate a limb than face a confrontation. I collapsed onto the bed, sobbing, and called Chloe, my best friend. I told her everything, the whole ugly, pathetic story, expecting her to soothe me, to tell me he was overreacting. But she didn't. There was a long, uncomfortable silence on the other end of the line. When she finally spoke, her voice wasn't angry, just tired, exhausted. "Gemma," she said, and the gentleness in her tone somehow hurt more than an accusation. "I love you, you know that. But honestly, what did you expect him to do? You backed him into a corner, he told you he would never, ever be in again. What other move did he have?" Her words hit me harder than the fall in the bathroom. She wasn't taking his side. She was just stating a fact, a terrible, undeniable fact. He didn't have another move. I had taken all his other options off the board, one paranoid accusation at a time. I had left him with nothing but the emergency exit, and he had finally, quietly, taken it. It's been 3 weeks. 3 weeks of a silence so profound it feels like a physical presence in every room. I haven't tried to call or text again. Chloe's words echoed in my head, and for the first time, I understood the finality of it all. There's no fixing this. There's no grand romantic gesture that will make him forget that I became the one thing he asked me not to be. So, I do the only thing I can. The only thing I have left. I stalk him. Not in the real world, of course. I'm not that far gone. Yet. But online, I am a ghost haunting his new life. My real Instagram account lies dormant. I log in with a fake one, a burner account with a picture of a sunset as the profile image. It's my portal into the world he now lives in, a world without me. And it is my own special, customized hell. I don't just check his page. I check his sisters, his best friends, his cousin who lives in another state. I have a whole routine. I analyze every new photo, every tag, every comment. 2 weeks ago, his best friend posted a picture of them on a hike. Mason was smiling. It wasn't the huge, beaming smile from the team celebration photo. It was smaller, more peaceful. He looked lighter. Like he'd set down a heavy bag he'd been carrying for a long time. I stared at that picture for an hour, the ache in my chest so sharp it was hard to breathe. The real dagger came last weekend. His sister posted a gallery of photos from a family barbecue. I scrolled through them, my thumb shaking. Pictures of her kids, her dog, the burnt burgers on the grill, and then the last photo, a big group shot. And there he was, sitting on the grass, a paper plate in his lap. He was laughing at something someone off camera had said. A genuine, unburdened laugh. It was the laugh I fell in love with, the one I hadn't heard in months. And in that moment, looking at his smiling face on my tiny, glowing screen, I finally got it. He wasn't punishing me. He wasn't trying to hurt me. His silence, his disappearance, it wasn't about me at all. It was about him. He was just saving himself. And every picture, every post, every glimpse into his life now is a fresh, sharp reminder of a single, devastating truth. His life got better the second he walked out of mine. He's free. And I'm here, in the dark, refreshing a screen, forever trapped in the prison I built for us both.